What are the Lovecraftian-like origins of the Silent One, those who control House Delac on the hive of Necromunda? How can the house communicate with other members without saying a word? What psyches can they field that can send gangers insane? Friends, let's find out, and welcome to another 40k video. So what is the possibly Xenos origin of House Delac on Necromunda? Before anyone else was there, the world was an ocean, deep and clear and cold and filled with monsters. So great were some of these creatures that they were worshipped as gods, and among the lesser creatures on the planet were those that would one day become the Delac. After thousands of years of deep seas and aquatic gods, the world's ocean began drying up. Perhaps there had been some cosmic disaster like a comet impact, or the system's sun had begun heating up. Or maybe it was those great gods drinking it all up in their greed. Whatever the reason, the world, as its inhabitants knew, was dying. One by one, the lesser creatures began to die with it, and soon even the larger creatures themselves, worshipped as gods, felt mortality come for them. The things that would one day become the Delac, however, were not content to let themselves or their gods die, and, being more cunning than most other inhabitants of the world, they devised a plan. As the ocean was swallowed up by the planet, great underground seas were created. Right at the heart of the world, close to its core, the Delac built a city for their gods in these underground seas, and then saw them to their slumber. Returning to the surface, they made their own plans for immortality, and then, like all the sentient aquatic races of their world, they died. Time passed, and humanity came and built the hive world and began to poison the planet. Then a plague came, and people became sick with their dreams and began wandering off from their hubs or factoria, heading down hive as if they were looking for something. And after it passed, people had gathered in the underhive, and though their backgrounds were different, now they somehow knew each other. The dreams had come from the dwellers in the ocean, and once the house's power built, then the house will unleash the formless beings of the sea, the Silent One. They can only communicate through their memories. In the modern era of the Imperium, members of the Delac can communicate without words. Many believe them to be psychers, and whilst they do have psychers in many cases, all Delac share a connection that comes from their exposure to a shared consciousness known as the Psychoterica. Even within the clan house, the true origins of it are a mystery. And I'd just like at this point to give a big shout out to Lovecraft. Clearly where a lot of this creatures, the drowned ones, etc. comes from. Definitely a source of inspiration to my eye. Anyway, on with the video. Held within ancient stones, dug up from the ash waste, or dredged up from the depths of the sump, the Psychoterica is a psycho-echo that changes the Delac when they come into contact with it. It awakens their minds to ancient memories and alters their thoughts, perhaps putting these people under the command of their cold masters. Those who have been exposed to the Psychoterica share a gestalt consciousness, not as evolved or precise as telepathy, nor as invasive or detectable. This shared mind allows a Delac to sense their own kind, communicate feelings and ideas, and recognize when someone else might have touched the Psychoterica like themselves. And these connections go back to the aquatic origins we mentioned earlier. Even then, there had been a similar connection. Talking to those within the house, everyone seems to have a shared drive. And you might be talking to somebody you think does one of the lower jobs, or it could be one of the leaders of the house. You don't know because they're all of that one together mind. So maybe the consciousness is like swapped out depending on who's talking to that particular body. Anyway, so when members of a house want a meeting of the clan masters, it happens because they all know that it's wanted. And if the member of a clan does not behave, then through this link, they can be found and removed. The house meets in the Star Chamber, but it's not what people believe it to be, for instance. It is not even a chamber. Rather, the Star Chamber is the collective term for what other clans would call their nobility. Those clanners who, by virtue of their birth or connections, have risen up into the highest echelons of the house. The members of the chamber are not chosen because of their blood or some family name, nor are they guaranteed a permanent place within it just because they currently have a seat at the table. Rather, membership to the Star Chamber is reliant on a Delac's connection to the Psychoterica, and only those with the strongest bond may attend. In its essence, the Star Chamber is the voice of the Silent Ones. Through the members of the Chamber and the collective power of the Psychoterica, the ancient will of these lost beings is known, or so it is believed. In reality, the desires of the Silent Ones are mixed in with the desires of the powerful Delac Master who make up the Star Chamber, and as the power of the Psychoterica has waxed within the clan over the centuries, the two have become all the more intermingled. No one Delaque considers themselves in charge. It's a collective voice that guides the clan. The greatest masters of shadow are seen as living embodiments of the Silent Ones, their humanity almost completely consumed by the ancient alien will, and their actions fathomable only by others equally in the embrace of the Psychoterica. Next we look at the Phantoms, who are linked to the Master of Shadow. Without words, the Master of Shadow can communicate their will to the Phantoms. Equally skilled in deception and clandestine combat, a Phantom will often be at the forefront of an attack, directing gangers and utilising some of the best weaponry available to the clan to take down the enemy. It also falls to Phantoms to preserve the Psychoterica should a ganger perish, or in the worst case scenario, their Master of Shadow perish. In these instances, the Phantom appears at the side of the fallen fighter and cradles their head in their hands before making an instinctive psychic connection. Those who have witnessed such passing of the Psychoterica claim the Phantom speaks with the voice of the Silent Ones, alien words tumbling from their lips even as their comrade's flesh grows cold. It is not fully understood how or why the Phantoms act in this manner, but the Delaque know it somehow both preserves and strengthens the Psychoterica, as if the ancient alien energy was calling out to itself, gathering fragments from the dead and growing stronger with each, perhaps maintaining minds that were added to the Gestalt to maintain its strength. I would speculate. Now, House Delaque has a natural affinity for Psykers, and many of their masters and gang leaders carry the Psyker's gift. Within the House of Shadow, however, it is the Zeitgeist who are the true foci of the Psychoterica, and the ones best able to channel its power. Alien in thought and action, they give voice to the Silent Ones, even essence opening themselves up to the ancient will of the first Necromundans. The manifestations of their abilities are always unsettling to behold, their words cutting through the silence of a dome like knives that seem to somehow slice at the very being of those that hear them. Underhivers subjected to a Zeitgeist's power are like as not driven temporarily insane by the experience, sometimes even turning on their own or breaking down completely into gibbering wrecks. By virtue of their gifts, Zeitgeists also exhibit greater control over the Delaque constructs and bioforms, such as the cephalopod spectre or the Piscian spectre. Their psychic will able to better command the brains of these creatures without the need to resort to cranial splicing. Rather unsettlingly, Zeitgeists are considered strange and alien even by the Delaque themselves. To many within the clan house, they represent a kind of psychic evolution and foreshadow a time when the Psychoterica might consume all Delaque in that same way, turning them into little more than vessels of the will of the Silent Ones. Some Delaque welcome this change, for they see the power of the Psychoterica as the power of the House of Shadow. There are elements within the clan that see it differently, however. Many of these have served within the Star Chamber and consider the Zeitgeist as a useful tool, but also warning and actively work to maintain what little humanity remains within this house. On that intriguing note, friends, we'll wrap up today's video.